and I paraphrase now, that I pray that the inner man and the outer man be as one. That my actions in the world reflect my convictions, that I am consistent, that I am whole, that I am complete. And I think that's what I mean by growing the soul, because we're all works in progress, aren't we? Unless you have reached perfect equanimity and you never get angry and you never lose your patience, and everyone you know you love desperately and without reservation, even politicians. I guess we're not done growing our soul, are we? It is a life project. But my point in all this is to say that in order for us to grow our souls, we need to do two things. We need to exercise, that's recess, and we need lunch. We need spiritual nutrition. Now I want to talk about how we get both of those in a very short and schematic way. Anyone remember the whole series of milk commercials a few years ago when they were promoting the Got Milk thing? You remember some of them, right? I just want you to remember that, because one of them involved a man in a very dark room, and he looks around, and there's a cabinet, a table, a world full of luscious chocolate chip cookies. And he starts eating them greedily, thinking, I must be in heaven. Then he goes to the refrigerator to look for a glass of milk, and there isn't any. And he realizes he's not in heaven. The point there is that it is possible to have too much of a good thing. In fact, you can have so much of something you like that it's no longer good for you. A life of chocolate chip cookies is not good for your body, and what's more, you'd get tired of them after a while, one would hope. We have the dire experience of people who are too fond of alcohol. We know what it's like when you are too attracted to one thing, or you can only eat one thing. You become malnourished. One of the points I tried to make in our early service is that we cannot become whole spiritual beings if we eat only one spiritual food, which is to say Christianity or Judaism or Islam or even Fountain Street Church. We need a larger diet than that to be whole. We have to go beyond our favorite foods. We have to, like we did in the lunchroom, maybe taste the okra or sample the fish sticks, and find out that our balanced spiritual nourishment comes from places that we don't ordinarily go because we automatically prefer the things we like, don't we? Which is why your mother is constantly telling you to eat your green beans or to clean your plate, because we don't know automatically how to eat the right food. Now let me talk about that project I went on this summer, which is a conscious one. I visited 8 different houses of worship in my summer, in addition to my regular attendance at the conservative synagogue. And I did that because I realized I was drinking too much from 2 fountains and I needed another source of nourishment. Besides, I wanted to see how everybody else did it. And you know, they usually do it on Sunday, and most of the time I'm kind of busy. So it was good to be able to get out and around. And I went to a variety of places, most of them here in downtown, and I discovered that they all do it different. They all do it the same. I discovered that there are some churches where they don't hand you a bulletin at all, but they do have a prayer book. I was at St. Nicholas Antiochian Orthodox Church. Do you even know it exists? It's right down near St. Mary's Hospital, a little bitty place. And it's Orthodox in the Greek tradition, but they don't use Greek. They use Arabic because they are Arab Christians by ancestry there. And we just plow through the prayer book, and I'm leafing through as fast as I can trying to find my way, and they stand up and I have to stand up, and then they say, I was confused, but I was also aware that they were doing worship in a very distinct way from my own. It involves standing up and sitting down and reading from a book and listening and paying attention. They have communion every week, as they often do in very old liturgical churches, but unlike our Catholic brothers and sisters, after they finish having communion, the bread is okay for anybody, and someone came back from the communion table knowing I was a visitor and just plopped some bread in my hand. If you're a Roman Catholic, that would cause outrage. And yet it's very commonplace for them. So I was also at the Roman Catholic Cathedral, where they sing up a storm these days. Boy, they like doing that, and they sing music completely different from ours. And yet it was clear that they all loved and did what they loved what they were doing, and the sense of community was there, even though the priest was running the whole shebang. I went to LaGrave Avenue Christian Reformed Church, if not the mother church, certainly the most prominent Christian Reformed church in our town. Elegant building, elegant congregation. Started at the dot of 6, ended at the dot of 7. I felt it was about as orderly an experience as I've ever had. And they sing too, 6 times. And they love it. Most of the time they sit. A different experience. I went to our friends at Park. I went to our friends at Westminster. I went to our friends at First United Methodist. But the place that I loved, truly loved, was New Hope Baptist Church, which is just south of Franklin, over near the park there. They don't even have an order of service. They don't sing hymns. They just worship. And you either get on the bus or you get left behind. And it was a hoot. It was a hoot because they knew I was a visitor. Would you like to know why? But the colleague that I have there, the minister there, is a friend of mine. And something else that has happened when I visited other communities of color in their congregations is they want guests to sit down in front as their honored guests. I declined, but he still gave me a shout out from his pulpit. I think that's great. None of them like here. And of course, if you don't know, I go to synagogue most Saturdays. They do things differently. They wear little hats. Sometimes they even wear prayer shawls. This is not a legitimate one. I had kids make this years ago. This is called a tallis, and a lot of stuff involved. And I thought, nothing like this goes on at Fountain Street Church. And I began to think that there was a whole lot of ways to be spiritual that I did not know. Lots of ways to be present. Like our Muslim friends who were here to have dinner with us a week and a half ago. When they make prayer, they stand, they bow, they kneel, they prostrate 5 times a day. And look at you. You just sit there. Which is nothing wrong with that. What I'm trying to let you know is there's a whole menu of religious ways of life out there, and guess what? They have nourishment for you. They do have nourishment for you. Even though you may not share their point of view, the way they engage the Spirit is a form of exercise for you. Sometimes literally, if you bend over and you can't sit back up, you're probably in need of a little spiritual chiropractic. But the point here is that we can worship with our eyes, with our ears, with our minds, with our bodies. We can worship by singing, by listening, by doing it alongside someone, by eating. So many different ways to be spiritual. And every one of them strengthens part of who you are. That's the point. Whenever you stretch outside your normal boundaries, the comfortable zone, the one you know, it's hard. It may even hurt a little bit. I go to the gym 5 days a week. I, right now, have pulled a groin muscle. I don't like it one little bit. But as soon as it heals, I'll be back doing my leg presses because I'll still get stronger if I go back to exercising that muscle. And I think this is what we need to do as Fountain Street Church. That if we're serious about growing ourselves intellectually, we have to be serious about growing ourselves spiritually. That is, expanding our repertory, our knowledge, and our abilities to be present spiritually to ourselves and others. I think we should all become Mahatmas. If you don't know the word, it's the honorific attached to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who was a little bitty guy with a great big soul. You might say when he flexed his spiritual muscle, he could bench press the world. He was called Mahatma, meaning great-souled, Atman, because he was willing to see in anyone honor and legitimacy and spiritual dignity. He said, yes, I am a Hindu, but I am also a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, and a Jew. And he wasn't being insulting or flip. What he was saying is he saw in the faith not the ideas, but the people. And when you love the person, when you value the person, you have to value their faith too. And not just as something over there, but as something over here, that they had something he needed, something that would strengthen.